Anyway, but on this, it is important to note that Laura Loomer is driving this. She is a far-right activist. She is someone who said that if Vice President Harris won the White House during the election, that it would smell like curry. Those were comments that were denounced by Republican allies of the president, including Vance at the time, said he disagreed with it. And so she is the one who's really driving this, and it speaks to the level of influence.
And let's talk about the impact on national security, who they are, and why this matters so much for how the national security of the United States of America is run and who's doing it.
Well, what's fascinating about this is that the 3 staffers that have been fired here are outside of Washington Beltway national security circles. These are pretty anonymous people. They are foreign policy minds that have serious resumes, that have worked serious jobs on Capitol Hill, in the State Department, in think tanks. You know, these are people that are well known in national security circles because they are longtime practitioners of foreign policy, experienced in making that kind of policy. These are the people that are sort of engaged in the nitty-gritty of actually designing national security policy for the president. But they're not big public figures. You know, they're people like Brian Walsh, who was who ran intelligence programs for the White House, who formerly worked for Senator Marco Rubio when he was chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. You had a senior director who worked on technology issues for the National Security Council, and you had the head of legislative affairs for the National Security Council. So again, not people that are sort of big public names that you're hearing on cable news all day long. And I think it really speaks to this kind of lesson that the president felt that he learned out of his first administration of being managed up by these faceless bureaucrats.
Thank you both for your reporting. Appreciate you being here, getting up and in a little earlier. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
So Tim Young says, I did not have CNN reporting on Laura Loomer's reporting on my 2025 bingo card. I love how angry Caitlin Collins is here. And we're going to talk more about that in a second. This is absolutely something that I did not expect to come across today. Not only from the standpoint, in fact, that Laura Loomer did what she did, had a meeting with the president in the Oval Office that led to people losing their jobs and being fired. This response from CNN, but better yet, this even making the news, really. But more so, importantly, we've got more Elon Musk news, okay? And this one is actually from Yahoo Finance, and it is by way of Guru Focus. And it says, Elon Musk out, Tesla shaken, Washington relieved. Obviously, this is clickbait, but we're going to read into it. And it says, Elon Musk is heading for the exit. Insiders confirm the Tesla CEO will step down from his high-profile government role in the coming weeks as his 130-day service limit nears, making this all out to be more than what it really is. But obviously, clicks, hype, sensationalism, you get the gist of it. And while President Trump still sings Musk's praises publicly, the decision follows rising internal friction and political blowback. Elon Musk's scorched earth approach to downsizing federal agencies won him fans among fiscal hawks, but also sparked backlash, culminating in a surprise liberal win in Wisconsin after Elon Musk poured millions into the race, which sure he did, but so did the Democrats, so did the DNC, so did George Soros. Anyway, we're one-sided here. CAC-Fu win. Cool name, I guess. The White House insists the timing is routine, but signs point to a strategic shift as Republicans look to avoid distractions ahead of the midterms. I don't think there's many distractions here besides articles like these, news reports from CNN. Those are the only distractions, and they're not even distractions for us. They're distractions for y'all. Y'all being the royal y'all leftist, Democrat, liberal, Kool-Aid drinkers. Behind closed doors, President Trump's team has been navigating Elon Musk's unpredictability for months. From unexpected agency cuts to controversial comments on Social Security and foreign policy, Elon Musk often blindsided cabinet officials and stirred up political drama, and his critics argue he became more liability than asset, with polls showing both his approval and that his Doge initiative is slipping fast. At a recent cabinet meeting, Trump handed the reins back to his secretary, signaling a clear recalibration. While Elon Musk will likely retain informal influence, his days as the administration's headline disruptor appear numbered. For Tesla investors, the timing is critical. Elon Musk's return to the private sector comes just as Tesla reported a 13% drop in quarterly sales, partly driven by consumer pushback tied to his political activism. With government contracts under the microscope and opposition mounting, the question now is whether Musk's focus shift will stabilize the brand or stir up more volatility. Sorry, guys, I'm struggling here because they forgot to put a space. Anyway, either way, markets will be watching closely as one of the most polarizing figures in both politics and tech returns to full-time CEO mode. Yeah, and with that being said, got a little bit of retargeting ad going on down here. Something else that I wasn't quite expecting today was Tesla's stock price taking a sharp dip, but all to be expected post-Liberation Day. And I couldn't help but indulge in making a purchase. So I grabbed up almost 4 shares of Tesla. And yeah, we're going to see where this one goes. We're going to see where this one goes. And I'll keep you guys tuned in, filled in on it every step of the way. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm in it for the long run. I was actually considering buying a Tesla today. I'm not sure if I will, but we'll see if we can get this thing to go up past 300. Let's see if we can just get it to go up past 300, which I think we can. But we'll see if we can get it to go up past 300. We'll see if the fallout after, Trump's signing and announcement yesterday has any impact. This was definitely a day to be ready to buy and purchase. This is a buying opportunity. This is not a time to be scared, worried, or panic. And honestly, I really probably will be kicking myself in the future saying, why did I only buy as much as I bought today? I probably should have bought more. But we're just going to see how it goes. We're going to see how it plays out. And I would say I'd like to see it go over 300. And I don't see myself selling anytime soon. Even if we drop into the ones, which I think would be insane, I'll just keep buying more. I feel pretty confident about where this one's going to go, how it's going to shake out, and the players that are involved in making sure that this moves in a certain direction so that they benefit the most. Stick with me here, folks. We're going places.
CNN has learned the White House has fired multiple administration officials after the president met with a well-known far-right activist.
That's right. That activist is Laura Loomer, who you see there in red. She was seen there at the White House yesterday greeting Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Very much so there. CNN's Elena Treen outside the White House for us. Elena, your sources say Loomer urged Trump to terminate these employees. Can you tell us who they are, why they were let go?
Yeah, she actually went in, I was told, to the West Wing with a list of around a dozen names and urged President Donald Trump to fire them. A lot of this was more about loyalty tests and whether or not these people had the president's best interests at heart, at least from her point of view.
And I guess this is pretty much par for the course. President Trump can do no right. And God forbid, the media, the left, Democrats, liberals call for President Trump to fire somebody. And what they wanted was Pete Hegseth. And they didn't get their wish. Now, President Trump chooses to do just that and fire some folks. And apparently, it seems like from their tone and from their attitude and from the body language and the choice of words that they're not happy with what he just did, which is insane. It's like this dude can do no right. He can do no right. And so basically what it boils down to is President Trump fires 3 national security staff after meeting with Laura Loomer, protecting his agenda. This is big, says Overton News, and President Trump has reportedly fired at least 3 National Security Council NSC staff members following an Oval Office meeting yesterday with independent journalist Laura Loomer. Loomer is said to have presented evidence of their disloyalty to the president's Make America Great Again agenda, ensuring only loyalists remain in critical roles. The fired officials confirmed by multiple CNN sources are Brian Walsh, a director for intelligence and former top staffer for Secretary of State Marco Rubio on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Thomas Boudry, a senior director for legislative affairs, previously Representative Michael Walsh's legislative director in Congress, David Feith, a senior director overseeing technology and national security who served in the State Department during Trump's first term. Loomer, a staunch Trump ally, known for her rigorous vetting of administration personnel, met with the president to address concerns about neocons and disloyal staffers undermining his agenda. And she arrived with the dossier of opposition research exposing NSC members she believed were not fully committed to Trump's vision in a meeting attended by National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, Vice President J.D. Vance, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and Sergio Gore, head of the Presidential Personnel Office. Sources describe the firings as an anti-neocon bloodbath with up to 10 staff potentially on the chopping block, though only 3 are confirmed as of now. Now, what I see here, these are all good things, right? If someone's not doing a good job or the job that they're supposed to do, or perhaps maybe in a situation like this is a threat to national security and essentially a rhino or a mole or whatever you want to call it, then they must go. However, the fact of the matter here being that CNN is jumping all over this, kind of like how CNN wanted to be there in Butler, Pennsylvania for live streaming a certain Trump rally, got me kind of wondering what their motives are here. And I'd be willing to bet that they're all bad, all nefarious for a specific reason. And essentially, if they can make anything about Trump's presidency appear to be not on the up and up, then they will definitely report on it, even though it probably doesn't really, it doesn't really warrant such airtime, okay? But the bigger picture here is if and when Trump tariffs actually prove to be better for the country, if and when Trump's border policy actually proved to be better for the country, if and when Social Security and Doge and everything actually proves to be better for seniors and Americans, any of it, I guarantee you CNN will not report on it. There will be no mention of it. The airwaves would go silent. And they will try to find something as almost as uneventful as this, almost as meaningless as this is in the grand scheme of things to report on, because God forbid they say anything neutral, let alone positive, about President Trump and what he's doing for America.
Now, this was first reported by the New York Times, but what we've learned since is that the White House has actually moved forward with firing multiple administration officials. At least 3 national security staffers were also on that list. And look, it's interesting because we know that National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, he was actually meeting with the president in the Oval Office before Loomer had entered the West Wing and came in to meet with him. So he ended up staying back, and he was there while she was doing this, while she was telling him how many of the staffers who served beneath him, including his principal deputy secretary, his deputy secretary, Alex Wong, saying that he was too hawkish, that he wasn't loyal as well. So a very interesting meeting. And I want to give you just a little bit of context on Loomer, because she's someone, as you mentioned, she's a far-right activist. She's actually someone who had a lot of access to the president while he was on the campaign trail. We did a story last fall about how she had traveled with President Donald Trump to a 9/11 memorial, something that actually caused a lot of consternation within his inner circle. And she's been complaining in recent weeks as well that she hasn't had enough access to the West Wing. But yesterday, of course, we know now that she has met with him. And I'm told as well that the president actually moved forward with a lot of these firings because of her urging of him to do so. Now, I did speak with Loomer as well. I want to read you just a bit of the statement she sent me. She confirmed that she had met with him and said, out of respect for President Trump and the privacy of the Oval Office, I'm going to decline on divulging any details. But she went on to say that it was an honor to, quote, present him with my findings. I will continue working hard to support his agenda, and I will continue reiterating the importance of strong vetting for the sake of protecting the president and our national security. So you can hear there how she's clearly saying that she believes that people somehow got into the National Security Council without really being as loyal to the president, as we know that, many of these people who were actually vetted by Sergio Gore, the head of the Presidential Personnel Office, she's arguing that they weren't that loyal, and now we're seeing many of them actually get fired. Boris, Brianna?
All right, Elena Treen, thank you for the report.
Following more breaking news now, sources tell CNN the White House fired at least 3 National Security Council staffers after a far right-wing conspiracy theorist told the president they are, quote, disloyal.
And now we're kind of picking up here where we started with the video. I'm not going to replay the intro again, but when we do get to that part, I will have something to share with you guys. And so stick with me here. And if you like the video, like the video.
One source says these terminations were a direct result of Laura Loomer's meeting with President Trump yesterday. Now, it is important to note that Loomer is a far-right activist who has gone deep into conspiracy theory land. Just one example, she claimed that 9/11 was an inside job. Now, she told CNN that she wouldn't comment on the meeting. CNN's Caitlin Collins and Katie Bo-Lillis are part of the CNN team that is reporting on this story. So, Caitlin, let me first start with you. People who watch a show called Inside Politics are probably very familiar with Laura Loomer as an individual. Also probably familiar with the fact that during the campaign there was controversy and she was asked not to be back on Air Force One. How did this happen that she got back into the inner circle?
Yeah, on the campaign trail, she actually had pretty good proximity to President Trump when he was outside of the White House. She traveled with him to the 9/11 memorial on the anniversary, even though, as you noted, she posted a video once that said that 9/11 was an inside job. And she has been complaining publicly that she has not had nearly as much access.
Exactly.
She's tried to get into the press briefing room. She's publicly tweeted at White House officials complaining they weren't letting her onto the grounds. And obviously, to get onto the White House campus, you have to be cleared in by a White House staffer. You give your social security number to the Secret Service. You can't just walk into the White House. And we saw her walking out of the West Wing yesterday, and that was after she had a personal meeting with President Trump inside the Oval Office. And we've now confirmed details, first reported by the New York Times, that she met with President Trump. Michael Waltz, the national security advisor, had just had a meeting with the president. He stayed behind and was in that meeting with Laura Loomer, where she was attacking several members of his staff at the National Security Council, saying that they were not sufficiently loyal to President Trump. That includes his principal deputy right underneath him. His name is Alex Wong, and several others, and was essentially arguing that President Trump should fire them. And then she left shortly before that tariff announcement came out yesterday afternoon. And so now what we're witnessing right now is a purge is underway at the NSC with several of the names that she brought to President Trump, arguing that they should not work for him.
And this is the key, and I want you to talk about who these people are in 1 second. But the key here is people hear NSC, they work for Mike Waltz, they might think, oh, this is about Signalgate. It's not.
No, none of
Nothing
these
to do with it. It's about loyalty.
Are related to that,
Alleged
from what we understand.
loyalty.
Right, it's alleged loyalty, or the argument is that they're too hawkish, that they don't actually share the president's views on that. I mean, you can look at the Signalgate chat, and there were even disagreements with the vice president saying that he didn't believe that they should strike. And so, anyway, but on this, it is important to note.
Yeah. So anyway, on this, it's important to note that Dana Bash ends up asking or making a statement, and she says, and this is where the video starts. If you want to go back and start the video over, this is that clip where it starts. And it says, and let's talk about the impact on national security, who they are and why this matters. So much for how the national security of the United States of America is run and who's doing it. And I think what she said and the question she asked, it was kind of confusing. And so I just wanted to make sure that I understood it correctly. And more importantly, that I shared it with you guys accurately. So I said, you know what, Grok, do me a favor. Dana Bash said this on CNN answering a question, or actually, no, this was the young lady's response. Okay. Cause the lady's response, that's really what it was. Dana Bash asked the question. I was a little bit confused about the question. And in fact, I'll replay the question for you guys so you can hear it again.
And let's talk about the impact on national security, who they are, and why this matters so much for how the national security of the United States of America is run and who's doing it.
But then the response is like, well, where did this response come from? Because I didn't really understand the question. So it makes it hard to understand the response if you don't really understand the question. So I asked for it to be simplified for me using this tool. Okay. And it says here that this young lady, dark haired lady, I don't know who she is, never seen her before, But Grok says that the speaker is talking about the recent firing of 3 staffers from the National Security Council, the NSC, during a CNN segment with Dana Bash. She explains that these staffers are not part of the famous Washington, D.C. political elite, often called the Beltway crowd. Even though they aren't well known to the public, they have strong backgrounds in foreign policy. And these staffers have worked important jobs like on Capitol Hill, at the State Department, and in think tanks. For example, one is Brian Walsh, who ran intelligence programs for the White House and worked for Senate Marco Rubio. Another was a senior director handling technology issues. And the third was the head of legislative affairs for the NSC. And they are experts who help design national security policies for the president, even though they don't appear on TV as big public figures. The speaker thinks these firings show something bigger. She suggests the president learn from his first term that he was being controlled by faceless bureaucrats, meaning unelected officials who influenced him too much. And by firing these staffers, the president might be trying to take more direct control and reduce the power of career experts. And this could mean he wants people who are more loyal to him personally rather than just experienced in their jobs. In short, the speaker is saying, and I think this is huge right here, that the president is making big changes by removing these skilled but low-profile staffers, and she hints that this is about avoiding being managed by the old Washington system. However, it's possible this is also about political loyalty or outside influences, and we don't know the full story yet. So perhaps maybe most important here is that she doesn't know, and she's just flapping her gums, but better yet, this is as close as we are going to get to CNN saying that President Trump is actually doing something right as we can possibly get from a guest who kind of beat around the bush after answering a question that Dana Bash kind of fumbled in asking. And I don't know if everybody picked up on that.